There's just no question about it. We don't live in a country of equality. But there's also no question about it that the best way to make that happen is to be allies. It's not just to fight for those things that impact us every day. It's to fight for those things that impact other people every day. And what you will see is that we will build alliances that are deep and that are strong and that are meaningful and that they're hard to break. I want to end with one thing. And that's I've been thinking for months about what's the one thing that we could all do that would guarantee next year and the year after that our government looked more like the government we want it to, that sounded more like the government we think it is, that would make Janice proud, that would keep us from getting those damn emails at 3 in the morning about how broken our government is, right? What's the thing that we could do? And there's only 2 things that I can think of that are silver bullets in public policy. One of them is education. That's the obvious one. I think most people recognize that if we just educated the shit out of everybody, right? We wouldn't have to spend so much money on defense and criminology. If everyone was so well educated in this country, by the way that they are promised and guaranteed that they will be in our Constitution, that we would have not just so much less people that are impacting our system, but we would have new thinkers, new innovators, that new people think about ways to get us out of all of this mess and this mishigas. And we would have it. No question about it. But there's one other silver bullet. Now, I've been in office for 2 years and about 4 months, and I have already figured out what the other silver bullet is. And the answer is women. It's women. Who would have thought? What does a gay guy know about women? I actually know a lot. And here's what I mean. It turns out that women in the United States are statistically much more empathetic than men. Empathetic, not sympathetic. Empathetic. And maybe women are much more sympathetic than men. I don't know. I haven't seen the polling. But I mean empathetic. What I mean is that the average woman in the United States walks into a room of 100 people and recognizes that there's 100 different goals, 100 different life experiences, 100 different motivations, in a way that men statistically do not. And I'd like to think that we can overcome that. I mean, that's why it's a statistic. There are people on either end of it, and if we know it, we can overcome it. But the average man, actually, in the United States, walks into a room and thinks that other people think the way that they think, will arrive at the exact same conclusions that they've arrived at for the exact same reasons that they've arrived at them. It almost makes a room full of men as deciders seem kind of redundant, right? Here's the problem. I believe that legislation is about empathy. I will vote on 2,000 bills this year. 2,000 bills will come across my desk. And maybe 50 of them have a direct impact on my life. That I can look to my own life experiences, I can look to my own evening, my morning, my education, my background, my family, something, and figure out how this bill would have impacted me. Everything else requires me to put myself in somebody else's shoes. Everything else requires me to put myself in a different home, in a different town, in a different family, and think about how my decisions are going to impact them. And yet we know women do that better than men. So here's the kicker. Right now in China, there are about 28% women in government. Afghanistan has 29.5% women in government. And this year, Pennsylvania has 18.4% women in government. We don't even have 1 out of 5 people in this government are women. Women make up 56% of the population, and they don't even make up 20% of our legislature. And we see it every single day. We've been studying what women in the legislature means for about 40, 50 years. Really since about 1972, 73 with Emily's List. We started studying what having women in a legislature means. Women focus on different things than men focus on in a legislature. No surprises. Women focus on family. Women focus on education. Women focus on food and nutrition. Women focus on surroundings in a way that men do not. And we have seen what happens when 80-something% of your legislature is men and the things that they focus on. We get to this government that we have right now that is painfully, almost illegally underfunded education, that cares nothing about our environment, that cares nothing about our local taxes, that cares nothing about our families and our kids. We know the answer. The answer is really simple. The answer is women in government. You know, for all the broken trickle-down theories in government, the one that actually does work is women in government. Putting more women in government makes our government look more the way that we think our government is supposed to. And it's centricity. It's not moderacy. For those people that think that putting more women in government just means watered-down versions of the things that guys are fighting about, it does not. Women in government focus on the middle. They don't focus on the 10% on the left and the 10% on the right. They focus on the 80% in the middle where we all occupy. So we know what's wrong with government in Pennsylvania. We know what's wrong with government in the United States. If we were to spend all of our time no longer fighting for environmental issues, no longer fighting for equality issues, no longer fighting for reproductive rights, no longer fighting for our towns and our cities and our kids, just fighting to put more women in office, I promise you, what you would see is a government that looked more like us, sounded more like us, represented us more. Government is about gathering the collective life experiences of those people that we choose to go there and make decisions for all of us. And I would postulate that we have gathered the collective life experiences of straight, cisgendered white men for a very, very long time. That includes my dad, and you know what? I love the life experiences of straight, middle-class, white, cisgendered men. We need them. But we also need a government that looks and sounds and feels more like all of us. Because I promise you, the moment that we do, we will begin to see a government that is responsive to our issues, that's responsive to our plight, that hears us when we say, you are wrong, and we are right, and here's why. And that's not what we've had, is it? So my goal for all of you isn't just that you are empowered by changing government, it's that you continue to use a lexicon that guarantees that people will hear you and listen to you, that they won't just stand on the opposite side and yell the opposite thing at you, because that doesn't work anymore. We need to talk to people in a way that will make them hear us. We don't need more opponents, we need more allies. And sometimes that takes us pretending that we're going to assume that you're an ally until you tell us otherwise. I hate that. I have to do it all the time. I have to walk into people's offices who I know are just hateful bigots and say, so, what do you think about women and gay people? You know, right? And just like pretend that they're going to come along. But that's our job. If we were all just crazy ideologues, we would all be in our living rooms and on our couches right now, cursing at the TV, cursing at the news, yelling at our newspapers. But we're not, we're here. Which means we actually want to do something about this. It's the progress and progressive. If we were all just liberal, we would complain about guns, and we would complain about racism, and we would complain about the wage gap. But we are progressives. We believe in progress. And so we're here to actually change those things. And changing those things means making sure that the right people are there talking about them. Please, 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 spend your time, spend your energy looking at the women around you and the roles around you and decide which of them deserve our support, deserve our help, deserve our elevation, because I promise you, as good as it is for the country, it's good for all of us too. It is very self-serving, but it is the damn right thing to do. Thank you all very, very much.